Savannah Parker, 32, stared at her sister across the kitchen island, the pregnancy announcement still hanging in the air between them. Four nieces and nephews already called Savannah's house their second home, sometimes their only home, while her sister Melody lived her carefree life. "I can't do this anymore," Savannah whispered, feeling the weight of 5 years of unpaid childcare crushing her. "This time you're on your own." She had no idea those words would shatter her family forever. Hey everyone, before I dive into the most challenging decision of my life, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family, you'll want to stick around for this family drama that completely turned my world upside down. Hit that subscribe button and like this video if you've ever been taken advantage of by someone you love. Now let's get back to the moment everything changed. The pattern had started 5 years ago, when Melody gave birth to her first child, Emma. At 27, Savannah had just landed her dream job as a marketing executive at a prestigious firm in Boston. Her career was taking off, and she'd recently purchased her first home, a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb with excellent schools. The purchase had been strategic. Savannah had always planned to start her own family someday. Melody was 4 years younger, beautiful, charismatic, and perpetually irresponsible. While Savannah had worked her way through college and built a career, Melody floated through life on charm and impulse. Their parents had always made excuses for her, calling her free-spirited, rather than acknowledging her self-centered behavior. When Melody announced her first pregnancy, she was single, unemployed, and living in their parents' basement. The father, a musician she'd been dating for 3 months, disappeared the moment he heard the news. Their parents, approaching retirement and planning to move to Florida, turned to Savannah for help. "It's just until she gets on her feet," her mother had said. "You have that big house all to yourself. Family helps family, Savannah." So Melody moved into Savannah's spare bedroom. Emma was born, and Savannah found herself waking for midnight feedings, changing diapers, and rearranging her work schedule to accommodate doctor appointments, all while Melody slept in, went out with friends, and complained about how difficult motherhood was. "I'm just not cut out for this mom stuff," Melody would say, scrolling through social media while Savannah bathed Emma. "You're so much better at it than I am. Emma loves you more anyway." 6 months later, Melody announced she'd found a job as a receptionist and would be moving out. Savannah felt a mixture of relief and concern. Concern that proved warranted when the job lasted exactly 2 weeks before Melody quit, claiming her boss was too demanding. By Emma's first birthday, Melody was pregnant again. This time, with twins fathered by a different man who also vanished. The pattern repeated. Melody lived with Savannah, contributed nothing financially, and gradually shifted all parenting responsibilities to her sister while she figured things out. The twins, Jack and Lily, were colicky babies who rarely slept. Savannah started working remotely to manage childcare, which slowed her career advancement. Her social life disappeared entirely. When she expressed frustration, her family accused her of being selfish. "They're your flesh and blood," her father reminded her during one of their increasingly rare phone calls from their beachfront condo. What kind of aunt turns her back on innocent children? By the time the twins were 2, Savannah had essentially become a single mother to 3 children, while Melody came and went as she pleased. Then came pregnancy number 3. "It's different this time," Melody insisted, glowing with excitement. "Ryan is different. He loves me. He wants a family." Ryan lasted until Melody was 7 months pregnant, with Noah disappearing after an argument about his gaming habits. Once again, Savannah adjusted her life to accommodate another child. She converted her home office into another bedroom, further isolating herself from colleagues who received promotions while her career stagnated. Now, as Noah approached his first birthday, Melody's announcement of a 5th pregnancy felt like a physical blow. Savannah had spent 5 years putting her life on hold, draining her savings, and sacrificing her own dreams of marriage and children. At 32, she hadn't been on a date in 3 years. Her friends had stopped inviting her to events, knowing she could never find childcare for 4 children who weren't even hers. As she looked at her sister's hopeful face, something inside Savannah finally broke. The accumulated resentment, the exhaustion, and the grief for her own lost opportunities coalesced into a cold resolve. She couldn't continue sacrificing her life for someone who took everything and gave nothing in return. "Who's the father this time?" Savannah asked quietly. "His name is Derek. He's a bartender at Liquid. He's really sweet, Sav." "I think he might be the one." Savannah nodded slowly. "And what's your plan, Melody?" "Another child in my spare room while you figure things out. Another man who disappears when responsibility becomes real. Another decade of my life on hold while you live however you want. Why are you being like this?" Melody's expression shifted from excitement to indignation. "You know I can't afford a place big enough for all the kids. And they love living with you. You're so good with them." "That's not the point," Savannah said, her voice strengthening. "I love those kids, but this isn't sustainable. I've put my whole life on hold for you. I can't do it anymore." Melody's eyes filled with tears. "What are you saying, that you don't want us here? Where are we supposed to go?" "I'm saying you need to take responsibility for your choices," Savannah replied. "I'll help you find resources, apply for assistance, look for affordable housing. But I'm done being your safety net. It's time for you to be a mother to your children." "Our parents will never forgive you," Melody hissed her, tears vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. "Is that what you want? To tear this family apart because you're too selfish to help your own sister?" The accusation hung between them like a physical thing. 5 years of guilt, manipulation, and sacrifice crystallized in that moment, and Savannah saw with sudden clarity exactly what she needed to do. "No, Melody," Savannah said firmly. "I'm not tearing the family apart. I'm refusing to enable behavior that hurts everyone, especially the children." Savannah spent that night researching. She contacted social services to learn about housing assistance programs, childcare subsidies, and job training opportunities. She created a folder of resources and a step-by-step plan that would help Melody transition to independence. She even found a parenting class specifically designed for single mothers. By morning, she had a comprehensive support plan that offered help without sacrificing her own well-being. When she presented it to Melody over coffee, her sister's response was predictable. "So you're just throwing us out on the street?" After everything we've been through, Melody pushed the folder away without opening it. "That's not what this is," Savannah explained patiently. "I'm giving you 3 months to find your footing. I'll help with the process every step of the way. But at the end of those 3 months, you need to have your own place and a plan for supporting your children. And if I don't, you'll just abandon your nieces and nephews." Melody's voice rose, waking the children upstairs. "If you refuse to take responsibility, I'll have no choice but to contact social services myself," Savannah said quietly. "The children deserve stability and a parent who puts them first." Melody's face contorted with rage. "You wouldn't dare." "I love those kids enough to do what's best for them, even if it's difficult," Savannah replied. "Do you?" Melody stormed out, slamming the door behind her. She didn't come home that night, leaving Savannah to explain to 4 confused children why their mother was gone. It broke Savannah's heart to see their faces. They were so accustomed to Melody's disappearances that they barely reacted. The next day, Savannah's phone exploded with messages from family members. Melody had called their parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, painting Savannah as a monster who was evicting a pregnant woman and 4 innocent children. The family rallied around Melody, flooding Savannah with angry calls and texts. "How could you do this to your own sister?" her mother sobbed over the phone. She's pregnant, Savannah. Where is your compassion? I've shown compassion for 5 years, Savannah replied, her voice steady, despite the tears streaming down her face. I've put my life on hold to raise her children while she takes no responsibility. That's not helping her or the kids. So you're punishing innocent children for your sister's mistakes, her father demanded. No, I'm holding their mother accountable so they can have the parent they deserve, Savannah said. I love those kids, which is why I can't continue enabling a situation that hurts them. By the end of the week, Savannah had been effectively cut off from most of her family. Her parents threatened to disown her if she didn't come to her senses. Aunts and uncles who had never offered to help with the children themselves condemned her selfishness. Cousins who had watched from a distance for years suddenly had strong opinions about her moral obligations. Melody returned to the house but treated Savannah like an enemy. She weaponized the children, telling them that Auntie Savannah doesn't want us anymore, and encouraging them to act out. She made no effort to look at the resources Savannah had collected or take any steps toward independence. Instead, she launched a social media campaign portraying herself as a struggling single mother being victimized by a heartless sister. She posted tearful videos about family betrayal that conveniently omitted any mention of the years Savannah had dedicated to raising her children. Friends and strangers alike flooded Savannah's accounts with hateful messages. The situation reached a breaking point when Melody's latest video went viral locally, and Savannah's boss called her in for a meeting. We've received some concerning feedback about your family situation, he said uncomfortably. Several clients have contacted us after seeing social media posts about you evicting your pregnant sister and her children. While we don't typically involve ourselves in employees' personal lives, our company has a strong family values image to maintain. Savannah felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. Those posts don't tell the whole story, she began, but her boss raised a hand to stop her. I don't need the details, he said. But I do need this situation resolved before it impacts our reputation further. Savannah left the meeting understanding the implied threat to her job, the job she had clung to despite setbacks, the job that had supported 5 people for years. Now, because of Melody's manipulation, even that was in jeopardy. That night, she sat at her kitchen table, long after the children were asleep, weighing her options. Continuing as things were would mean the complete sacrifice of her own life. Enforcing her boundaries would mean family estrangement and possibly unemployment. Neither choice seemed bearable. As she scrolled mindlessly through her phone, seeking distraction from her impossible situation, a notification appeared from a cousin she hadn't spoken to in years. Unlike the other relatives who had condemned her, this message was different. I see what's happening. I've watched for years while you've raised her kids and everyone's ignored it. Don't let them manipulate you. I know something about Melody that might change everything. Call me. Savannah stared at the message from her cousin Morgan for several minutes before gathering the courage to call. Morgan had always been the family outcast, the truth teller no one wanted to hear from. They had been close as children but had drifted apart in adulthood, particularly after Morgan moved to Chicago and distanced herself from the family dynamics. I was wondering if you'd call, Morgan said, when she answered. Her voice was warm but cautious. Your message was cryptic, Savannah replied. What do you know about Melody that I don't? I've been living with her for 5 years. There was a pause on the line. Living with her body, maybe, but not with the truth. Has she told you anything about the fathers of her children? Not much, Savannah admitted. Different men who disappeared when responsibility became real. Why Morgan took a deep breath. Because that's not the whole story. The reason those men disappeared isn't just irresponsibility. It's because Melody deliberately targeted wealthy men, got pregnant, and then demanded large cash settlements to keep quiet. Savannah felt as though the air had been sucked from the room. That can't be true. She's struggled financially since Emma was born. I've been supporting them. You've been supporting her lifestyle, Morgan corrected gently. But she's not broke, Savannah. She's been receiving substantial payments from at least 3 of the fathers. I know because Jason Emma's father is my husband's colleague. He didn't abandon her. She threatened to ruin his marriage and career if he didn't pay her to stay away. Savannah sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. Why would she? If she has money, why live with me? Why let me struggle? Because you gave her the perfect cover story, Morgan explained. The abandoned single mother whose sister saves the day. Meanwhile, she pockets the money and enjoys her freedom while you raise her kids. It's the perfect scam. She gets sympathy, freedom, and cash. How do you know all this? Savannah whispered, her mind racing to reconcile this new information with the sister she thought she knew. Jason recognized me at a work event last year. When he realized I was related to Melody, he asked if I knew what she'd done to him. He showed me evidence texts where she threatened to destroy his reputation if he didn't pay. When I confronted her, she admitted everything but threatened to turn the family against me if I exposed her. Given how they've always protected her, I believed her. But why tell me now? Savannah asked. Because I've watched you sacrifice everything while she manipulates everyone. When I saw her viral videos painting you as the villain, I couldn't stay silent anymore. She's destroying your life, Savannah, and she's doing it deliberately. After the call ended, Savannah sat motionless, processing the revelation. If Morgan was telling the truth, and somehow deep down Savannah knew she was, then the past 5 years had been an elaborate deception. While Savannah had depleted her savings, stalled her career, and surrendered her personal life to care for Melody's children, her sister had been collecting money that could have supported them. The betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just financial exploitation. It was the calculated manipulation of Savannah's love for the children and her sense of family duty. Melody had weaponized the very values Savannah held most dear. With shaking hands, Savannah began to search through the house. If Morgan was right, there must be evidence somewhere. Melody had never been good at covering her tracks. Her confidence that no one would question her had always been her protection. In Melody's closet, behind a stack of designer shoeboxes, Savannah had never questioned, assuming they were thrift store finds or gifts. She discovered a locked metal box. Using a hairpin to trigger the simple mechanism, she opened it to find bank statements, legal documents, and handwritten agreements with signature lines and dollar amounts that made Savannah gasp. Emma's father had paid $120,000 up front, plus $3,000 monthly since the child was born. The twins' father, a married real estate developer, paid $5,000 monthly to maintain privacy regarding personal matters. Noah's father contributed $4,000 monthly through a family trust arrangement. All told, Melody had received over $500,000 in the past 5 years, money that could have provided stable housing and proper care for her children. Among the documents was a newly drafted agreement with Derek, the supposed father of the 5th child, except his real name was Daniel, and he was the CFO of a local tech company. The agreement outlined a $150,000 payment upon birth verification and $6,000 monthly thereafter for confidentiality regarding personal matters. As Savannah spread the evidence across her bed, another document caught her eye. A brochure for a luxury condo development in Miami with a unit circled and notes about move-in dates. Melody wasn't planning to stay with Savannah indefinitely. She was planning to abandon her children entirely once she had enough money. The realization hit Savannah like a physical blow. Melody had never intended to be a mother to these children. They were simply her means to financial freedom. Innocent lives created and then discarded for profit. The thought made Savannah physically ill. As dawn broke, Savannah formulated a plan. This wasn't just about setting boundaries anymore. It was about protecting 4 innocent children from a mother who saw them as commodities. It was about exposing a 5-year fraud that had manipulated not just Savannah but the entire family. The path forward was clear but treacherous. Confronting Melody meant risking the children's stability and potentially alienating them from their mother. Not confronting her meant continuing to participate in a destructive lie. Either way, innocent lives would be affected. Savannah realized she needed legal advice before proceeding. If she was going to protect the children and herself, she needed to understand her options. With trembling fingers, she scheduled a consultation with a family law attorney for later that day. As she replaced the documents exactly as she had found them, she heard Melody returning from another night out. She closed the closet door quietly, her mind racing with questions and fears. How could she face her sister knowing what she now knew? How could she look into the innocent faces of her nieces and nephews without breaking down? For their sake, she would have to be stronger and smarter than she had ever been. The game had changed, and Savannah was no longer playing by Melody's rules. The consultation with the attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Victoria Chen, had been illuminating and disturbing. Victoria had listened to Savannah's story with professional detachment, occasionally making notes or asking clarifying questions. When Savannah finished recounting her discovery, Victoria leaned forward with a grim expression. What your sister is doing could potentially be classified as fraud depending on the specifics of these agreements, she explained. More importantly for you, the fact that you've been the primary caregiver for these children for 5 years gives you certain rights, but also creates complications. What kind of complications? Savannah asked. If you've been functioning as their de facto parent while your sister collected money meant for their care, you could potentially pursue custody on grounds of abandonment or neglect, Victoria said. However, courts generally favor biological parents, unless there's clear evidence of harm to the children. She hasn't harmed them physically, Savannah admitted. She's just absent, emotionally and often physically. Neglect is a form of harm, Victoria pointed out. The question is whether you want to pursue legal action, and if so, what outcome you're seeking. That question had haunted Savannah throughout the day. What did she want? Justice for herself, protection for the children, punishment for Melody? As she prepared dinner for the kids, watching them play and laugh, she realized the answer was simpler than she'd thought. She wanted whatever would give these children the stable, loving home they deserved. Melody returned home just as dinner was ending, breezing through the door with shopping bags from expensive boutiques. She barely acknowledged the children, dropping a quick kiss on Noah's head before disappearing into her bedroom to try on her purchases. "Can you clean up dinner?" she called out to Savannah. "I'm meeting Derek in an hour." Savannah felt a surge of anger at the casual expectation, knowing now that Derek was actually Daniel, a wealthy, married man, being extorted for money. But she swallowed her response, focusing instead on helping the twins with their homework, while Emma bathed Noah. She would need privacy for the confrontation to come. After the children were finally asleep, Savannah knocked on Melody's door. Her sister was applying makeup, dressed in an outfit far more expensive than anything a struggling single mother could afford. "We need to talk," Savannah said, quietly closing the door behind her. Melody glanced at her irritably. "Can it wait? I'm already running late." "No," Savannah replied firmly. "It can't wait. Not anymore." Something in her tone must have registered with Melody, because she put down her mascara and turned to face her sister. "What's wrong? You look intense." "I know about the money, Melody," Savannah said without preamble. "I know about Jason and the others. I know about the payments and the agreements. I know everything." The color drained from Melody's face, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," Savannah said, her voice low but intense. "I found the documents. I know you've received over $500,000 while letting me drain my savings to support your children. I know Derek is actually Daniel and he's married and you're blackmailing him. I know about the condo in Miami. Melody's expression shifted from denial to cold calculation in an instant. So what? What are you gonna do about it? The casual cruelty of the response stunned Savannah. How can you ask that? You've been lying to me for 5 years. You've let me sacrifice everything while you hid money that could have supported your children. Melody shrugged, returning to her makeup application. You chose to help. I never forced you to do anything. You manipulated me. Savannah's voice rose slightly before she remembered the sleeping children. You used my love for those kids against me. You turned the entire family against me when I finally set boundaries. Because you were threatening my system, Melody said calmly. I've worked hard to create this life. Those men owed me for the inconvenience of pregnancy. Why shouldn't I benefit from it? Because the money was meant for your children's care. Savannah was incredulous at her sister's lack of remorse. Children you created deliberately to extort money from their fathers. Please, Melody rolled her eyes. Don't act so self-righteous. Those men knew what they were doing. They got what they wanted, sex without consequences. They're paying to maintain their precious reputations and marriages. And the children? Savannah asked. What about them? They're not just collateral in your extortion scheme, they're human beings who need a mother. They have you, Melody replied dismissively. You're better at the mom stuff anyway. You've said so yourself. The conversation was going nowhere. Melody saw nothing wrong with her actions, felt no remorse for her deception, and had no intention of changing. Savannah took a deep breath and played her final card. I've spoken with a lawyer, she said quietly. Given that I've been the primary caregiver for 5 years while you collected money meant for their support, I have grounds to petition for custody. For the first time, genuine alarm flickered across Melody's face. You wouldn't dare. They're my children, are they? Savannah countered. Or are they just your meal ticket? When was the last time you attended a parent-teacher conference, or took Noah to the doctor, or helped the twins with homework? You're planning to abandon them for a luxury condo in Miami once. You've collected enough money. Melody's expression hardened. If you try to take my children, I will destroy you. The family already thinks you're the villain. Imagine what they'll think when I tell them you're trying to steal my babies out of jealousy. The difference is that now I have proof, Savannah replied. Proof of the money, the agreements, the condo plans. Proof that you've been neglecting your children while using me as free childcare so you could live a double life. Before Melody could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Mom, Auntie Sav. Both women turned to find Emma standing there in her pajamas, her young face troubled. Why are you fighting? What's wrong? Savannah's heart sank. How long had she been there? What had she heard? At 8 years old, Emma was perceptive and sensitive, the unofficial protector of her younger siblings. The thought of her overhearing this conversation was devastating. Nothing's wrong, sweetie, Melody said quickly, her tone shifting to saccharine concern. Auntie Sav and I were just having a grown-up discussion. About taking us away, Emma asked, her voice small. I heard you say she wants to take us. Savannah knelt down to Emma's level. It's complicated, honey. But what matters is that both your mom and I love you very much. We're trying to figure out what's best for all of you. I don't want to leave, Emma said, her eyes filling with tears. I don't want everything to change again. The raw fear in her voice broke Savannah's heart. These children had already experienced so much instability. Regardless of Melody's deception, a custody battle would only traumatize them further. Nothing's changing right now, Savannah assured her, pulling her into a hug. You're safe, and you're loved, and that's what matters most. Over Emma's head, she met Melody's eyes. There was no triumph or manipulation in her sister's expression now, just the same fear reflected in her daughter's face. For all her flaws, perhaps Melody did love her children in her own way. Or perhaps she simply feared losing her leverage. Either way, this confrontation had reached an impasse. "Let's get you back to bed," Savannah said gently to Emma. "We can talk more in the morning." As she tucked Emma back in, the little girl clutched her hand. "Promise you won't leave us, Auntie Sav. Promise we can stay with you." The question pierced Savannah's heart. How could she promise anything when the future was so uncertain? How could she protect these children without causing them more pain? "I promise I will always be here for you," she said carefully, "no matter what happens." When she returned to Melody's room, her sister was sitting on the edge of the bed, her elaborate makeup streaked with tears. "What do you want from me?" Melody asked, her voice hollow. "I want you to do right by your children," Savannah answered simply. "Whether that means being a real mother to them or legally allowing me to be." Melody laughed bitterly. "So, those are my options. Surrender my freedom or surrender my children. Those children deserve better than being pawns in a scheme," Savannah said firmly. "They deserve stability, honesty, and love. If you can't provide that, then yes, those are your options." For a moment, something like genuine emotion flickered across Melody's face. Then her expression hardened again. "I need time to think. Don't do anything yet." Savannah nodded, knowing that pushing further tonight would only escalate the situation. "We'll talk tomorrow." "But Melody, this can't continue. For the children's sake, something has to change." As she left the room, Savannah felt the weight of her decision pressing on her. Was she doing the right thing? Would exposing Melody's deception help the children or harm them further? There were no easy answers, only the certainty that the status quo could not continue. That night, as she lay awake, listening to the quiet breathing of the house, Savannah realized this wasn't just about confronting Melody's betrayal, it was about confronting her own complicity. For 5 years, she had enabled a situation that wasn't healthy for anyone, especially the children. By trying to be the perfect sister and aunt, she had become part of a dysfunctional system. Whatever came next would require not just courage to face Melody, but courage to face herself and the family dynamics she had perpetuated for too long. "I know we're at a crucial moment in my story, and I can see you're invested in what happens next. Before I continue with how everything unfolded, I'd love to hear your thoughts on family loyalty versus self-preservation. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between helping a loved one and protecting your own well-being? Drop a comment below sharing your experience. If you're finding this story relatable, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these real family stories. Now let's see what happened the morning after this confrontation. Savannah woke the next morning to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. "Took the kids to the park. Need space to think. Back later. M." The brief message sent a wave of panic through Savannah. Would Melody run with the children? It wouldn't be the first time she'd disappeared when confronted with consequences. But taking 4 children on the run seemed impractical, even for Melody. Still, Savannah couldn't shake her anxiety. She called Victoria Chen, explaining the situation and asking about her options if Melody did attempt to flee with the children. "Without a court order, your hands are legally tied," Victoria explained. "They're her biological children. However, disappearing with 4 kids while pregnant would be extremely difficult and would only strengthen your case if you decide to pursue custody." "I don't want it to come to that," Savannah admitted. "I just want what's best for them." "Have you considered reaching out to the fathers?" Victoria asked. "If they're paying support, they may have a vested interest in the children's welfare, regardless of the circumstances." The suggestion gave Savannah pause. She had never met these men, knowing them only as shadowy figures who had abandoned their responsibilities. But Morgan's revelation had changed that narrative. At least some of them might care what happened to their children, even if they'd been manipulated into staying away. Using the contact information from Melody's documents, Savannah composed careful emails to Jason Eric, the twins' father, and Ryan, Noah's father. She explained the situation without accusation, focusing on the children's well-being and suggesting a confidential conversation. She deliberately excluded Daniel, the father of Melody's unborn child, uncertain whether involving him would escalate the situation. To her surprise, Jason responded almost immediately, requesting a video call. When his face appeared on her screen, Savannah was struck by how much Emma resembled him, the same serious eyes and thoughtful expression. "I've been waiting 5 years for this call," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "How is she? How is Emma?" The raw longing in his voice caught Savannah off guard. This wasn't the callous abandoner Melody had described. "She's amazing," Savannah said honestly. "Smart, kind, protective of her siblings. She loves reading and science. She wants to be a veterinarian." Jason's eyes filled with tears. "I have a photo of her as a newborn. It's all Melody would give me. I've imagined her growing up every day since." The conversation that followed was revelatory. Jason hadn't known Melody was pregnant until she contacted him demanding money. They had dated briefly, and he had indeed been married. Separated in the process of divorce, but technically still married. Melody had threatened to contact his estranged wife and employer with fabricated harassment claims if he didn't pay for his mistake. "I wanted to be in Emma's life," he explained. "I offered co-parenting, child support through proper channels, everything." Melody refused. She said if I tried to establish paternity or visitation, she'd ensure I never saw Emma and would still destroy my reputation. The cash arrangement was the only way I could provide for my daughter without risking everything else. Similar conversations followed with Eric and Ryan. Both had been manipulated and threatened in various ways. Both had paid substantial sums, believing it would support their children, and both expressed genuine interest in their welfare. Ryan had even attempted to maintain a relationship with Melody for Noah's sake, but her increasingly erratic behavior and financial demands had eventually driven him away. By mid-afternoon, Savannah had formed an unlikely alliance with 3 men who shared one crucial commonality: they all wanted what was best for their children. Children they had never been allowed to know. "What's your plan?" Jason asked during a 4-way video call. "If you're seeking custody, we'll support you. We can provide evidence of the payments and Melody's threats." "I don't know yet," Savannah admitted. "I confronted her last night, but Emma overheard us. She was terrified of being taken away from her home. The last thing I want is to traumatize these children further." "Could we meet them?" Eric asked hesitantly. "Not to disrupt their lives, but just to know them. To let them know they have fathers who care." The request was reasonable but complicated. How would the children react to meeting fathers they'd been told had abandoned them? How would Melody respond to this alliance? Before Savannah could formulate a plan, she heard the front door open. The children's voices filled the hallway, followed by Melody's sharper tone, instructing them to wash up for dinner. Dinner she expected Savannah to prepare, no doubt. "She's back," Savannah whispered, ending the call with a promise to be in touch soon. When she entered the kitchen, Melody was unloading grocery bags, more food than she had purchased in months. "We need to talk," Melody said without preamble. "After the kids are in bed." Savannah nodded, uncertain whether to be hopeful or wary. Melody's expression gave nothing away. The evening passed in strained normalcy. Savannah helped the children with homework while Melody actually prepared dinner, a rarity that didn't go unnoticed by the kids who exchanged confused glances at this departure from routine. After dinner, Melody supervised bath time while Savannah cleaned up another role reversal that left her wondering what game her sister was playing. Once the children were asleep, Melody joined Savannah on the back porch, 2 glasses of wine in hand. She offered one to Savannah, who accepted it warily. "I've been thinking about what you said," Melody began, staring out into the darkness. "About the kids deserving better." Savannah remained silent, waiting for whatever manipulation would follow. "I'm not a good mother," Melody continued, her voice uncharacteristically small. "I never wanted to be. I got pregnant with Emma by accident, and then I realized I could leverage it. The rest, well, they weren't accidents. I saw an opportunity and I took it." The cold admission hung between them. Savannah had suspected as much after discovering the documents, but hearing it confirmed was still shocking. "Why tell me this now?" she asked. Melody took a long sip of wine. "Because you're right. This can't continue. Not for me, not for you, and especially not for them." She gestured toward the upstairs bedrooms. "They deserve someone who actually wants to be their mother." "What are you saying?" Savannah asked cautiously. "I'm saying I want to leave," Melody replied. "I have enough money saved to start over somewhere else, somewhere warm with no responsibilities. But I can't take the kids. I don't want to take the kids." Savannah's heart raced. Was this another manipulation? "You want to abandon your children officially after doing so unofficially for years." "I want to give them to someone who loves them," Melody corrected. "Who better than the woman who's already raised them? You've been more of a mother to them than I ever was." Savannah struggled to process this unexpected turn. "You'd just walk away. What about the baby you're carrying?" Melody's hand drifted to her stomach. "There is no baby. I lied about being pregnant to buy time while I finalized my plans. Daniel's payments were the last I needed to afford the condo in Miami. The casual deception was breathtaking." "You were going to fake a miscarriage and disappear, weren't you?" Savannah realized. "That's why you needed space to think. Today you were setting things in motion." Melody neither confirmed nor denied it. "Things changed when you confronted me. When I saw how frightened Emma was, for the first time I realized what I was doing to them." She hesitated. "I'm not a good person, Savannah, but I'm not completely heartless. They deserve better than me." "Legal guardianship isn't simple," Savannah pointed out. "You can't just hand over your children." "I've already looked into it," Melody said. "I can sign over temporary guardianship immediately, with permanent arrangements to follow. I've prepared the paperwork." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "All it needs is your signature." Savannah stared at the documents, suspicion warring with hope. "Why should I believe you? Why now, after years of lies?" "Because you caught me," Melody said simply. "The game is over. I could fight you, turn the family against you even more, maybe even win. But it would be exhausting, and for what? To maintain a life I was planning to escape anyway. I'm tired, Savannah. I'm tired of pretending." The raw honesty in her voice was unlike anything Savannah had heard from her sister before. Still, she hesitated. The fathers have a right to know their children, to be part of their lives if they choose. Melody's expression darkened. "You've contacted them." "Yes," Savannah admitted. "And they care, Melody. They want to know their children." To her surprise, Melody nodded slowly. "That makes this easier, actually. More people to share the burden." She drained her wine glass. "Include whatever visitation terms you want in the guardianship agreement. I won't fight it." Savannah studied her sister's face, searching for the trap, the hidden agenda. "You'd really walk away from your children and never look back?" "I'd be doing them a favor," Melody said flatly. "I've never been a real mother to them." "You have. Let's just make it official." The next 6 months transformed Savannah's life in ways she could never have imagined. The temporary guardianship papers were filed and approved, giving her legal authority over all 4 children, while more permanent arrangements were negotiated. Melody, true to her word, moved out within a week, leaving behind most of her possessions and all of her responsibilities. The family's reaction was predictably explosive. Their parents, initially disbelieving, flew in from Florida to confront Savannah, convinced she had somehow forced Melody out. It took the combined testimony of Victoria Chen and the children's fathers to convince them of the truth, and even then they struggled to accept Melody's deception and abandonment. "We failed both of you," their mother finally admitted, sitting in Savannah's living room, surrounded by evidence of Melody's schemes. "We enabled her behavior her entire life, and we left you to bear the consequences. I don't know if you can ever forgive us." Forgiveness didn't come immediately, but understanding did. The family patterns that had shaped both sisters had been generations in the making. Their parents had repeated what they had experienced, protecting the fragile child while burdening the strong one. Breaking that cycle wouldn't happen overnight, but acknowledging it was the first step. The children surprisingly adapted to Melody's absence with minimal distress. Emma, at 8, was old enough to understand more than the adults realized. "Mom was never really here anyway," she told Savannah one night during bedtime. "She was just a visitor. You're our real mom." The statement both warmed and broke Savannah's heart. These children had never known true maternal presence from Melody. They had always had Savannah as their constant. The transition was less about losing a mother and more about officially recognizing the mother they already had. Introducing the fathers into their lives proved more complex but ultimately rewarding. Jason, Eric, and Ryan approached their children with patience and respect, never forcing connections but making themselves consistently available. They coordinated with Savannah to establish regular visitation schedules, contribute to expenses, and participate in important decisions. For the first time, Savannah had partners in raising these children, not just financial support, but emotional and practical assistance from men who genuinely wanted the best for their kids. The burden she had carried alone for 5 years was finally shared. Her career began to recover as well. With the fathers taking weekend visitation, Savannah had time to focus on professional development. Her boss, impressed by her handling of the family situation and now understanding the true circumstances, offered her the opportunity to lead a new project, a promotion that acknowledged her skills and dedication despite the setbacks. Financially, the change was dramatic. The fathers established legitimate support arrangements through proper legal channels, ensuring the children's needs were fully met without depleting Savannah's savings. Jason even insisted on retroactive compensation for Savannah's years of care, calculating what child support would have been and reimbursing her from the funds he had previously paid to Melody. 6 months after Melody's departure, Savannah's home had transformed from a place of exploitation and sacrifice to one of genuine family connection. The children thrived with consistent routines, clear boundaries, and the knowledge that they were truly wanted and loved. They spoke of their biological mother occasionally, without anger, but with a matter-of-fact acceptance of her limitations. "Some people aren't meant to be parents," Emma explained to the twins with wisdom beyond her years. "Mom gave us life, but Auntie Sav gave us a home." The custody arrangement evolved over time into a form of shared legal guardianship between Savannah and the respective fathers, an unconventional family structure that prioritized the children's stability and well-being over traditional definitions. The court, recognizing Savannah's 5 years of primary caregiving and the father's genuine commitment, approved the arrangement with provisions for regular review. Melody maintained minimal contact, sending occasional texts to Savannah asking about the children, but never expressing interest in seeing them. Her Miami condo became her permanent residence, and social media showed her living the carefree life she had always wanted, traveling, partying, dating, with no evidence of regret for what she had left behind. Savannah had expected to feel anger or resentment seeing her sister's posts, but instead found only a complicated sadness. Melody had chosen a life without the joy and connection these incredible children brought daily. For all her material gains, she had lost something far more valuable. As the one-year anniversary of Melody's departure approached, Savannah received an unexpected message from her sister. "I signed away my parental rights. The paperwork should arrive this week. You can adopt them now if you want. It's better this way." The message was typically Melody, no emotion, no explanation, simply expedient action. But it represented the final piece in securing the children's future. With formal adoption, Savannah would become their legal mother in every sense while maintaining the co-parenting arrangements with their fathers. The night after receiving Melody's message, Savannah sat on her back porch, the same spot where Melody had proposed her departure a year earlier. The house behind her was quiet, the children asleep in beds that were truly theirs, in a home that was legally becoming theirs. The path to this moment had been painful, filled with betrayal and difficult truths, but the outcome was unquestionably right. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jason, court date confirmed for adoption hearing. "We'll all be there to support you." Another message followed from her mother. "Dad and I booked flights for the hearing. We're so proud of you, Savannah. We love you." And finally, a message from Morgan. "You broke the cycle, cousin. Not just for yourself, but for those kids. That's the greatest revenge against a toxic family system refusing to perpetuate it." Morgan's words resonated deeply. This journey hadn't been about revenge against Melody, despite the hurt and betrayal. It had been about creating something better, breaking patterns that had damaged both sisters in different ways, and building a healthier foundation for the next generation. As Savannah looked up at the stars, she felt a sense of completion. The sister who had exploited her love and generosity for years had inadvertently given her the greatest gifts of her life. 4 amazing children, who now called her mom, a community of support she had never expected to find, and the strength to redefine family on her own terms. The betrayal that had seemed like the end of her world had actually been the beginning of a better one. Not just for her, but for 4 innocent children who deserved the stability, honesty, and unconditional love that Savannah had always been ready to give. 2 years after Melody's departure, Savannah stood in the backyard of her home, now legally her children's home as well, surrounded by friends and family celebrating Emma's 10th birthday. Jason manned the grill, laughing with Eric as they debated the perfect hamburger cooking time. Ryan chased the twins and Noah through the sprinkler, all of them shrieking with delight. Savannah's parents sat in the shade, her father bouncing Noah on his knee, while her mother arranged presents on the picnic table. The adoption had been finalized 6 months earlier, with all 3 fathers present in the courtroom to support the arrangement. The judge, initially skeptical of their unconventional family structure, had been impressed by their commitment to cooperation and the obvious bonds between all parties. "These children are fortunate to have so many adults who love them," she had commented before signing the final order. Now watching Emma blow out her candles surrounded by both her adoptive mother and her biological father, Savannah felt a sense of peace she had never expected to find. The journey had been painful and messy, but the outcome was beautiful in its own way. "Make a wish," Savannah called, as Emma took a deep breath. "I don't need to," Emma replied with a grin. "I already have everything I wanted." Later, as the party wound down and the younger children napped indoors, Emma approached Savannah with an envelope. "I found this in Mom's old things," she said quietly. "I think you should read it." Inside was a letter dated 5 years earlier, shortly after Emma's birth. It was addressed to Savannah in Melody's handwriting. "Dear Sav, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong with my plan. I never meant for any of this to happen. When I got pregnant with Emma, I panicked. I wasn't ready to be a mother. I'm still not. But you've always been the responsible one, the caring one. You're the mother I could never be. I know I'm taking advantage of your kindness. I know it's wrong. Sometimes I hate myself for it, but not enough to stop. Every time I see you with Emma, I'm relieved it's you and not me. Every time you take over a responsibility I should handle, I feel both guilty and free. Maybe someday I'll become the person everyone thinks I am. Maybe someday I'll deserve your help and your love. Until then, I'm just pretending, and we both know it. I'm sorry, Savannah. I'm sorry for what I've done, and what I'll continue to do. You deserve better than the sister you got. Melody Savannah stared at the letter, her hands trembling slightly. Melody had known from the beginning what she was doing. She had felt guilt, even self-hatred, but had continued anyway. The admission was both vindicating and heartbreaking. Are you mad? Emma asked, watching Savannah's face carefully. No, sweetheart, Savannah assured her, folding the letter. Just sad. Your biological mom has always been lost in her own way. Emma nodded with that preternatural wisdom she sometimes displayed. That's why she left. She knew we belonged with you. Savannah pulled her close. We all belong together, you, me, your brothers, and your dads. We've created our own kind of family, and it's perfect exactly as it is. As the sun set on the birthday celebration, Savannah reflected on the strange, painful path that had led to this moment. Melody's betrayal had ultimately freed both sisters, Melody from responsibilities she never wanted, and Savannah from expectations that had limited her own happiness. In losing the sister she thought she had, Savannah had gained the family she was meant to have all along. The following week, a postcard arrived from Barcelona with Melody's distinctive handwriting. They look happy in the photos. You did what I couldn't. Thank you. No return address, no further explanation, just acknowledgement, perhaps the closest thing to closure they would ever have. Savannah pinned the postcard to her bulletin board alongside school art projects and family photos. It was a reminder of where they had been and how far they had come. A small piece of their complicated history that had shaped but no longer defined their lives. That night, as she tucked each child into bed with kisses and stories, Savannah felt complete. The sacrifices, the betrayals, the difficult choices all had led to this moment, to these children, to this life that was messy and unconventional and absolutely right. Family, she had learned, wasn't defined by blood or obligation. It was built through love, honesty, and showing up every day for the people who mattered most. Sometimes the greatest family bonds formed not from where you started, but from what you overcame together. And that night, surrounded by the family she had fought for and finally claimed as her own, Savannah Parker knew that some betrayals, painful as they were, could ultimately lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Well, that's my story. It's been 2 years since everything changed, and I couldn't be happier with where we all ended up. I'd love to hear if any of you have experienced similar family transformations where something that seemed devastating actually led to something beautiful. Has karma ever worked in your favor this way? Drop a comment below and let me know. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life family stories. Share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for everyone's well-being. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, family isn't always what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you build together through love and truth. See you in the next video.